I was working the night shift at a boutique hotel in Amsterdam when a guest came running down the stairs at 11 p.m., fully dressed but soaking wet from the waist down. He looked panicked. "There's something wrong with your bathroom," he said, breathing hard. "The whole floor is flooded. I think a pipe broke." I grabbed my radio and followed him upstairs, already dreading the cleanup. But when we got to his room, I saw the problem immediately. The bathroom floor was drenched, sure, but nothing was broken. The American had taken a shower without pulling the curtain inside the tub. The curtain was hanging outside, and water had poured straight onto the tile floor for his entire 15-minute shower. He just assumed European hotels had some kind of drainage system built into the floor. This is what I mean when I say cultural assumptions travel with us. Most people just laugh at stories like this. I study why they happen. If you want the kind of breakdowns that actually explain global behavior instead of mocking it, you'll want to subscribe now. This is what I do every week. In my bathroom back home, a little water on the floor just dries up, he explained, genuinely confused. I handed him every towel we had and showed him how shower curtains work. He was 47 years old. That wasn't even the strangest bathroom incident that month. A woman from Texas called the front desk 3 times in one afternoon asking how to flush the toilet. Each time I explained the dual flush buttons on top. Press the small one for liquid waste, the larger one for solid. She kept insisting it wasn't working. When I finally went up to check, she'd been pressing both buttons simultaneously, which canceled out the flush mechanism. She'd been doing this for 2 days, letting waste pile up rather than asking for help earlier. Then there was the guy in Copenhagen who genuinely believed bidets were drinking fountains. My colleague found him bent over one, taking gulps of water like he'd just crossed a desert. When she explained what it was actually for, his face went through about 5 different colors. He checked out that same afternoon without making eye contact. Working in European hospitality, you see patterns. Americans struggle with door locks that require keys turned twice. They panic at windows that tilt inward instead of sliding up. But bathrooms? Bathrooms are where the real confusion happens. It's the combination of unfamiliar technology, cultural differences, and the basic human need to figure things out quickly without asking for help. Nobody wants to admit they don't know how to use a toilet. But that was just the beginning. I was working as a hostel manager in Berlin when an American backpacker, maybe 23 years old, came to the desk looking embarrassed. I think someone stole the toilet seat in the 3rd floor bathroom," she said quietly. I'd heard this before. I walked her upstairs and opened the bathroom door. The toilet was perfectly normal. She pointed at it. "See? No seat." It was a wall-mounted toilet, the kind common in modern German buildings. The seat was there, just shaped differently than American toilets, more compact and European-styled. She'd been hovering over it for 3 days, assuming it was broken or vandalized. Her thighs were probably screaming. I showed her it was fine, totally normal. She laughed, but also looked annoyed that nobody had mentioned this in her travel guide. The same week, a business traveler from Atlanta called down at 6 a.m., furious. "Your shower is broken. No hot water at all." I asked if he'd waited 30 seconds. "Silence on the line." "Why would I wait?" he asked. "European water heaters, especially in older buildings, take time to heat up. American systems often have hot water ready instantly." I explained this. He hung up without saying thank you. Over in Prague, my friend who manages a vacation rental told me about a couple from Arizona who couldn't figure out the combination toilet bidet. They'd used it normally for 2 days, but then the wife accidentally hit the bidet button while still seated. The spray caught her completely off guard. She screamed so loud the neighbors called the landlord, thinking someone was being attacked. Her husband tried to turn it off, but hit the pressure increase button instead. By the time they figured it out, the bathroom looked like a crime scene. They left a 1-star review saying the toilet was booby-trapped. In Budapest, I was working at a thermal bath facility when an American family arrived. The father kept asking where the paper seat covers were. "We don't use those in Hungary." He refused to let his kids use the toilets without them, so he spent 20 minutes crafting makeshift covers from toilet paper. His wife kept telling him it was fine, that Europeans just sit directly on public toilet seats. He wouldn't listen. "Do you know how many germs are on these things?" he kept saying. Meanwhile, his kids were touching everything else in the facility: the railings, the door handles, the shared towels. But the toilet seat was where he drew his line. A restaurant server in Rome told me about an American tourist who asked why the toilet paper was so rough. "It's like sandpaper," the tourist complained. "Don't you guys have the soft stuff?" My friend explained that many European countries use recycled paper, which is better for older plumbing systems. The American looked offended. "You're telling me Europe, with all its history and culture, can't figure out comfortable toilet paper?" He said it loud enough for other customers to hear. Someone from the next table leaned over. "We invented plumbing while your country was still a colony," they said. The American left shortly after. Back in Amsterdam, we had a graduate student from Michigan who got locked in the bathroom. She'd turned the privacy lock, which is common, but panicked when she couldn't figure out how to unlock it. The mechanism was slightly different from American locks. You had to turn it fully 180 degrees, not just 90. She started banging on the door after 5 minutes, convinced she was trapped. By the time we got her out, she'd worked herself into a genuine panic attack. "Why are your locks so complicated?" she asked, still shaking. "They're not. They're just different." Then there was the incident in Stockholm. An American tech worker, maybe 35, staying in a modern apartment, couldn't figure out the shower controls. Instead of a simple hot-cold knob, it had a thermostatic mixer with digital temperature display. He kept turning dials, getting either freezing water or scalding bursts. He eventually gave up and didn't shower for 2 days. When he finally asked the building manager, the manager demonstrated it in about 10 seconds. The American looked genuinely defeated. "I have a master's degree," he said quietly. The manager just shrugged. I was working as a tour guide in Paris when an American couple in their 60s asked me where the nearest restroom was. We were standing outside the Louvre. I directed them to the public toilets near the pyramid entrance. They came back 15 minutes later, looking frustrated. "Those weren't bathrooms," the husband said. "They were just stalls, with no sinks inside." They'd found the toilets, but were confused because French public restrooms often separate the toilet stalls from the washing area. They'd expected an American-style bathroom with everything in one enclosed space. The wife had waited by the stalls, thinking the sinks were coming up next somehow. They'd left without washing their hands, too confused to figure out the layout. That same afternoon, a younger American, maybe 27, approached me urgently. "Do you have bathrooms that don't cost money?" she asked. I explained that many public toilets in Paris charge 50 cents to 2 euros. She looked appalled. "That's crazy. Bathrooms should be free." I suggested she use a cafe restroom. "But I don't want to buy anything," she said. I explained that in France, using a cafe's facilities without being a customer is generally frowned upon. She tried anyway at 3 different places. Each time she was politely redirected. She ended up paying the public toilet fee, muttering about capitalism the entire time. In Barcelona, I was working at a museum when an American family asked about the bathrooms. I pointed to the signs. The father came back confused. "Those symbols don't make sense," he said. The doors had a triangle for men and a circle for women, common in modern Catalan signage. He'd expected the standard stick figures or words. His teenage son had accidentally walked into the women's room, causing a brief scene. "Why can't you just write men and women?" the father asked. I explained that symbols are universal and work for non-Spanish speakers. "But I don't understand these symbols," he countered. The irony was lost on him. A British colleague in Edinburgh told me about an American student who'd been searching for a bathroom in a pub for 10 minutes. She kept asking staff, "Where's the restroom?" They kept saying, "The toilet's downstairs." But she'd walk past it every time because the door said WC. She didn't know that WC stands for water closet, the British term for bathroom. She finally asked someone directly, "What does WC mean?" When they explained, she seemed annoyed. "Why not just say bathroom?" "Because in the UK, a bathroom is specifically a room with a bath. A toilet is different." She didn't want to hear it. In Vienna, I was working at a cafe when an American asked where the bathroom was. I told him downstairs, first door on the left. He came back up almost immediately. "It's locked," he said. I explained you need to get the key from the counter. "Why?" he asked, genuinely baffled. In Austria, especially in smaller establishments, bathroom keys prevent non-customers from using facilities. It's normal. He seemed to think it was a personal insult. "So you don't trust people?" he asked. "It's not about trust. It's about managing facilities." He took the key but kept making comments about it. A hostel worker in Krakow told me about an American who'd been holding it for 6 hours because he couldn't find a free public restroom. "I walked past 5 places that wanted money," he explained. "I'm not paying to pee." His friend, also American but who'd traveled more, finally explained that it's standard in Poland. The stubborn one refused on principle. He ended up so desperate he used an alley behind a closed shop. A local called the police. He got a fine of 100 zloty for public urination, which was more than he would have spent on 20 paid bathroom visits. Sometimes principles are expensive. Then there was the incident in Brussels. An American tourist asked a shopkeeper where the nearest bathroom was. The shopkeeper, being helpful, gave detailed directions in French-accented English. The tourist followed them but ended up at a pharmacy. He came back confused. Turns out, the shopkeeper had directed him to a public toilet that was inside the pharmacy building's lobby. In Belgium, it's common for public facilities to be located in commercial buildings. The American couldn't wrap his head around why a toilet would be near a pharmacy entrance. "That seems unsanitary," he said. The shopkeeper stopped being helpful after that. I was working reception at a small hotel in Lisbon when an American guest called down at midnight. "There's no trash can in my bathroom," she said, sounding irritated. I explained there was a small bin next to the toilet. "No, I mean a real trash can. For, bathroom trash." She meant for toilet paper. I explained that in Portugal, you flush toilet paper down the toilet. "But the sign says not to," she insisted. I went up to check. The sign, in English, said, "Please do not flush sanitary products, wipes, or other items." It was standard. She'd interpreted other items to include toilet paper. She'd been collecting used toilet paper in a plastic shopping bag for 2 days. The smell was starting to become an issue. I explained that toilet paper is designed to dissolve and is meant to be flushed. She didn't fully believe me, but threw the bag away in the hallway trash. She left the next morning. In Norway, I was working at a mountain cabin rental when an American hiker asked about the composting toilet. "It's not flushing," he said. I asked if he'd read the instructions posted on the wall. He hadn't. Composting toilets don't flush with water. You add wood shavings after each use. He'd been pressing a non-existent flush handle for 3 days, getting increasingly frustrated. When I showed him the bucket of shavings and explained the process, he looked horrified. "That's primitive," he said. I explained it's actually environmentally advanced. Perfect for remote locations without plumbing. He checked out early and left a review calling us behind the times. A pharmacy worker in Florence told me about an American woman who came in asking for bathroom medicine. The worker was confused. The woman kept gesturing and eventually said she needed something for when the bathroom doesn't work right. After 10 minutes of confusion, they figured out she wanted laxatives. But she'd been too embarrassed to say the actual words, so she'd created this euphemism. The Italian pharmacist spoke 4 languages, but had never heard bathroom medicine before. It's now their go-to story. In Dublin, I was driving a taxi when an American passenger asked to stop at a bathroom. I pulled up to a pub. "You can use theirs," I said. He hesitated. "Do I have to drink something?" I told him it's polite, but not mandatory. He went in, used the facilities, and came out quickly. "The sink was weird," he said. "It had two separate faucets, and I couldn't get warm water. This is classic Ireland and the UK. Separate hot and cold taps. You're supposed to plug the sink and mix the water. Americans always struggle with this because they're used to single-lever faucets." I explained the history, how older British plumbing kept hot and cold water separate for safety reasons. "But how do you wash your hands with warm water?" he asked. I explained the plug method. He seemed to think it was an elaborate prank. Back in Germany, a colleague told me about an American who'd reported their apartment's toilet as broken because the buttons don't do anything. The landlord came over. The toilet was fine, but the American had been pushing the buttons as gently as possible, like pressing an elevator button. German dual flush buttons require a firm press and sometimes a specific technique. The landlord demonstrated pressing down decisively. The toilet flushed perfectly. The American looked embarrassed. "They should make that more obvious," he muttered. The landlord didn't respond. In Iceland, I was working at a guest house when an American couple asked about the smell in their bathroom. "It smells like sulfur," the wife said. "Is something rotting?" Iceland's hot water comes from geothermal sources, which naturally contains sulfur. It's completely normal and safe, just has a distinctive smell. I explained this. They seemed skeptical. "So everyone in Iceland just deals with smelly water?" the husband asked. "Icelanders don't notice it, or they're used to it." The couple kept complaining. On their last day, they admitted they'd been brushing their teeth with bottled water the entire time, convinced the tap water was contaminated. "It's some of the cleanest water in the world." Finally, there was the Amsterdam incident I'll never forget. An American student, maybe 20, asked me why there was a weird shelf inside the toilet bowl. Dutch toilets often have an inspection shelf, a flat area where waste lands before being flushed. It's designed so you can check for health issues. The student thought it was a design flaw. "It just sits there," she said, disgusted. "Why not make it drop straight into water like normal toilets?" I explained the health inspection purpose. She looked appalled. "That's gross. Who wants to look at that?" I mentioned that it actually reduces splashing and odor compared to American deep bowl toilets. She wasn't convinced. She spent her entire semester complaining about Dutch toilets on her study abroad blog. Meanwhile, Dutch people think American toilets are weird for using so much water and creating splashback. It's all perspective. I was working at a luxury spa in Switzerland when I encountered the bathroom story that tops them all. An American businessman checked in for a weekend wellness retreat. The room cost 800 francs per night. Everything was high-end. Heated floors, rainfall shower, premium toiletries. On his second morning, he came to the desk looking sheepish. "I think I broke something in the bathroom," he said quietly. I grabbed my master key and followed him upstairs. The bathroom looked fine at first. Then I noticed water all over the counter and floor near the sink. "What happened?" I asked. He pointed to the bidet. "I thought that was a foot wash station," he said. "You know, for the spa experience." He'd been using the bidet to wash his feet, sitting on the counter with his feet in the bowl. But he'd turned the pressure up too high, and when the spray hit his heel, it ricocheted everywhere, soaking the walls, mirror, and floor. He'd been doing this twice a day for 24 hours. I explained what a bidet actually is. His face went completely red. "Oh God," he said. "I washed my feet in... oh no." He'd also used the special bidet soap, thinking it was foot cream. I helped him clean up. He was too embarrassed to make eye contact with any staff for the rest of his stay. He left a massive tip when he checked out, probably out of pure shame. The thing about bathroom confusion is that it's universal. Every culture has their own standards, their own logic, their own systems. What seems obvious in one place is completely foreign in another. Americans aren't uniquely clueless. They're just used to a very specific way of doing things. When you grow up with certain expectations about how bathrooms work, Everything else feels wrong. But here's what's interesting. Most Americans eventually figure it out. They adapt, they learn, they stop making the same mistakes. The ones who struggle are usually the ones who refuse to believe their way isn't universal. The ones who adapt fastest are the ones who ask questions instead of assuming. And these stories? They never stop coming. Right now, somewhere in Europe, an American is probably staring at a bathroom fixture, completely baffled, too proud to ask for help. Tomorrow, I'll probably meet them at the front desk.